Hello there. Welcome to my channel, Momoon Tarot. My name is Momoon. Welcome. Today I am doing a video response video to the Witch of Enchantments. And the video that I'm responding to was called How Christianity Influences My Witchcraft and Embracing What Feels Right. So I don't know if I can link the video below. I don't know how to get the link, but I will definitely leave the name of the channel and the name of the video. It is The Witch of Enchantment. Okay, and so he talked about how Christianity influences his witchcraft and how he embraces what feels right. Now, some things that, as a video response that I'm doing to him, I definitely connected with what he spoke about, coming from a Christian background myself. I do identify as a witch. I don't identify as a Christian witch, but then again, words are very limited, and people may practice magic and not call themselves witches. So I practice magic and I also identify as a witch, but some people practice magic and they don't call themselves witches. They call themselves something else. Healers, shamans, there are other words for people who practice magic. So one of the things that this individual from the Witch of Enchantment, I don't know his actual name, but I'll say he, because I know he identifies as a he. I think I saw that on his Instagram. So I'll leave a link to his Instagram in the description box down below. So one of the things he touched on was how Christianity influences his practice. And so I'll just respond to that with how Christianity influences my practice. I work with angel energy. I work with the Goetian spirits, who are also called demons, although demons and angels, whether you call them demons or whether you call them Goetian spirits or whether you call them angels, if you know the story in the Bible about how demons, quote unquote, were created, and you may or may not know this story, I'll just tell you quickly. God created all the angels. There were different types of angels. Lucifer was the angel in charge of the music, and he was one of the most powerful angels. However, he was unsatisfied and he wanted to be like God. He wanted to be God. He didn't just want to be one of the most powerful angels. And because of his pride and wanting to be like God, instead of just being grateful for who he was, he fell from heaven. He was dismissed from heaven, along with several angels. I don't know how many exactly, but several angels went down and were cast out of heaven as well. And those angels that were cast out of heaven in the Christian religion are called Satan or Lucifer, or the devil and the demons. But they are all angels. That's what I think. I think they're all angels or spirits. So I work with angel energy. I work with the Goetian spirits. I work with Lucifer as a fallen angel. I identify with the idea of absolution and finding peace in your soul and feeling forgiven. I identify with that. I take pictures of cathedrals and Catholic churches, as well as statues of saints, statues of Jesus, statues of angels. So that's how I work with Christianity in my practice. I also collect rosaries. I love to collect rosaries. I don't know what it is. To me, I grew up as a Christian, not a Catholic. So I was taught that we could only pray to Jesus, and through Jesus, the message was delivered to God, and that you could not pray to saints or people that had died, which is what in Catholicism they do practice. So as a Christian, I didn't practice praying to saints or people who had passed on. And Catholic churches are a lot different than Christian churches in the way they look, in the way they're embellished. A Christian church is a lot more just like a building. And to me, growing up as a Christian, the Catholic Church, even though they've done horrible things in their history, along with many other religions and people, I saw the Catholic Church as something that I romanticized, especially, and I won't get into this too much, but as somebody who liked to read Anne Rice novels, I identified with the vampires who were seeking absolution and who laughed in the face of the idea of rosaries and Catholic relics being dangerous to their health. So to me, collecting rosaries I think they're beautiful. And I also think that there's a sort of energy where, even though I identify as a witch and I feel like I enjoy the spirit of the vampires of Anne Rice, I hold these rosaries as sort of to respect, but also to laugh in the face of them as well and say, well, look at me, I have rosaries and I'm not a Catholic, you know. Could just be a little bit of my dark side. So trauma. The Witch of Enchantment mentioned trauma. So he mentioned either, was it trauma that he incurred from the deities or trauma that he incurred from the people within the Christian religion? Well, when I say Christianity, I should say one deity because it's like the Hebrew God. So for me, I don't feel like there was any trauma from any of the people that I went to church with. You know, to me, I'm very understanding. People are not always nice. They're not always warm and kind and accepting, but at the same time, they're people, right? Regardless of the fact if they're Christians or whatever they are, they're still people and they have good days and bad days, and they're not always going to be super friendly with you. They're not always going to accept you because people don't always get along. So to me, I didn't incur any trauma from the people within the Christian religion, nor from my family. My family never, they know I'm a witch. They've never said anything to me about it. And no one has ever been nasty with me online or anything like that as far as with myself calling myself a witch. I think what caused the most trauma for me was the idea of hell, which I think is very traumatic for many people, especially kids. When kids are learning about Christianity, I think one of the things that Christians like to put the emphasis on is that if you don't believe in God, you're going to hell, and hell is a horrible place of suffering. So for me, becoming a witch and slowly separating myself from my Christian beliefs, I often would feel a fear of hell and think to myself, well, what if I am indeed going to hell for this? So there was a little bit of trauma there. But one of the things he mentioned as well, the Witch of Enchantment, do I believe in hell? So do I personally believe in hell as a response to this question on the Witch of Enchantment's video? As a witch as well, just like him, I believe that hell is a creation of our minds. Do I believe there is a physical place in the spiritual world where people go to suffer? I don't know if anybody is familiar with the book Memnoch the Devil, but there is a place that people go in that book. However, the story of creation is very different from the story of the creation in the Bible, and the story of Memnoch, who is also the devil, is very different from the way the Christian Bible portrays it. So that for me was an opening to a different way of looking at story of creation and the devil in a way where I could understand it. I believe that there are people who do horrible things in this world, murder for one, violence, unnecessary violence, harming somebody on purpose over and over again, or harming many people, starting a war for no reason. These people, they may or may not show a sense of, they may not feel guilty in the physical portrayal of themselves, but there is a guilt within their subconscious that they may not know that is there. And I believe that when they pass on from this life, they create a way for themselves to deal with the guilt that they incur from all the trauma they caused in this physical life. And they feel like they need to go to a place called hell, quote unquote, remember words are very limited, to this place where they will suffer and where they will relieve themselves of their guilt. So it's a place that they will go to of their own will in order to relieve themselves of their guilt. It's like absolution, right? And when they feel like they've done their time, and when they feel like they have no more guilt to deal with, and they've forgiven themselves, I believe they can move on and transcend to the light or to heaven, quote unquote, or whatever word you want to use to describe the place like heaven, whether it be the Summerlands, Nirvana, Valhalla, whatever the heaven is that you believe in. So do I believe in hell? I believe that there is hell on earth. Many people who are spiritual are not afraid of a hell because they've experienced an experience here on earth that is just like a hell. For me, I experienced a spiritual experience one time where I was lying on the couch on my back, and I felt like I was encased in a coffin and I was freezing cold, yet I knew that around my coffin the flames were burning, and I couldn't move because I was encased in a coffin, and it felt like an eternity where I was feeling freezing cold, yet I knew the flames were burning, touching my coffin, outside my coffin. And to me, that was hell. I've also experienced another spiritual experience where I was dancing. There's a song by a popular rock star, and it talks about dancing with tags on your toes. And I was dancing to music, and I knew I was in hell, but I was dancing with a tag on my toe in hell. So there can be joy in hell. And maybe it doesn't make sense, but what I mean by there can be joy in hell is that you could be living a hell, yet you could be joyful, because it's all about your mentality. So by reason, it stands to the question, do I believe in heaven? And it's the same type of thing. I believe that if somebody needs to rest, if they feel at peace with themselves, they will go to that heaven. So also when he talked about trauma, he was talking about trauma from the deity or from the people, and he mentioned that it wasn't the deity. For me, the Hebrew God, I hated the Hebrew God when I first became a Christian, because I felt like I had been rejected by him, and I felt like I wasn't good enough for him. And I was happy to move on to be a witch, but at the same time, I felt a sort of loss because I had built up a relationship with the Hebrew God from 6 years old to, my 30s. And I felt like I had been rejected. But now that feeling of rejection has become a feeling of respect. So I'll go into exploration and analysis now, okay? So one of the things that the Witch of Enchantment mentioned was exploration and analysis, talking about the Bible and reading stuff that makes you uncomfortable, personal practice and how it makes you feel, exploring, trying something new, and asking yourself, if you're feeling uncomfortable, why am I this way, and opening up to new things. So I have a few things that I've written down in regards to opening up to new ideas. So to me, Jesus was an ascended master. So what is an ascended master? They were ordinary humans in past incarnations in this life that have undergone a series of spiritual transformations, originally called initiations. They gained mastery over the limitations of the material plane and fulfilled their dharma, which is also called their divine plan. As ascended masters, they have become godlike and have become a source of unconditional love to all life, and through the ascension that they have gone through, have united with their own God self and the I am presence. So I challenge you to question if Jesus was an ascended master. There is also the idea that I challenge you with of Christ consciousness. Now, Christ consciousness is an awareness of the higher self as part of a universal system. Christ consciousness is available to all who seek awareness and spiritual awakening, regardless of their personal religious adherence. Now, the Hebrew God is also known as Yahweh, the name for the God of the Israelites. Traditionally, both Judaism and Christianity believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, an argument for a Christian witch, and I'm putting this out there, is Solomon, King Solomon. King Solomon wrote in the Bible the Psalms of Solomon, also known as the Song of Songs, 18 Psalms in the Bible. He wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, and he wrote the book of Proverbs in the Bible. This is King Solomon. The Bible depicts Solomon as excelling in wisdom, a quality which was bestowed upon him by God. And in the Bible, God asked him what he wanted, and Solomon replied to God, I want an understanding mind to govern your people, able to discern between good and evil. That's in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 9. So here is the challenge, presenting to you the idea of a Christian witch. So I have this book. It says in this book, these books were first found in the Chaldean and Hebrew tongues at Jerusalem by a Jewish rabbi, and by him put into the Greek language and thence into the Latin language, as it is said. So it's called the Megaton, the complete books 1 through 5. And apparently this is a book about Solomon and how he practices magic. There's information about Goetian spirits and other sorts of spirits and how to summon them. So I'm not saying that Solomon was a witch. I'm not saying that he was, quote unquote Christian, but he believed in the Hebrew God. And in this book, it talks about the magic circle, the magic of geometry, seals, or also known as sigils, zodiacs, conjuring, cursing, prayers, and angels. So who was King Solomon? Solomon was the former king of Israel, according to the Hebrew Bible and Christian Old Testament, was a fabulously wealthy and wise monarch of the United Kingdom of Israel, who succeeded his father, King David. So what I'm trying to say is Solomon is a Christian figure who wrote 3 books in the Bible and who was seen by Christians to be, and maybe even Jews, I don't know, to be a very wise king. And yet we have this book which talks about Goetian spirits, which a Goetian spirit can be seen as a demon, and also talks about the pentagram of Solomon, the magic ring of Solomon, the secret seal of Solomon, the other magical requisites, general curse, conjuration of the fire. And this book is based on powers received from God to be able to do this. So that's just an idea of somebody that could be considered, not necessarily with those words, Christian witch, but somebody who practices duality. And one thing that I wrote down about duality is the yin yang is duality. It means simultaneous. It is a symbol that means simultaneously existing. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up with my notes here. So in ancient Chinese philosophy, yin and yang is a Chinese philosophical concept that describes how obviously opposite and contrary forces may actually be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent in the natural world, and how they may give rise to each other as they interrelate to one another. So what I'm trying to say, I'm just seeing if I read everything on my notes, and I think there's one thing that I forgot as well. But what I'm trying to say is when you look at the symbol of the yin and the yang, you see that there are opposite forces existing together to create what is called a balance and a harmony. And so when you think about demons and angels, or the Hebrew God versus Satan, or Lucifer, or the horned God, or when you think about the God and the goddess, there's the dualities there. So I want everybody to coexist. One of the things that he also talked about was saint work. He mentioned the witch of enchantment, mentioned saint work, and he talked about I think 2 different saints that he works with. I don't personally work with saints, but there are, I think voodoo works with Catholicism, because the African people were brought to United States in slavery, and they brought I think it was voodoo with them, and then they merged it with Catholicism to be able to hide voodoo with practicing under Catholic names. So Santeria combines elements of Catholicism and the Yoruba religion, which is an African diasporic religion. So as you see, what I'm trying to say is there shouldn't be it's okay to have your own feelings about somebody who wants to incorporate Christianity or Catholicism into witchcraft. It's okay to have your feelings towards it, but just make sure that you are understanding that these things already exist, and that it should be fine for people to practice what works for them, as long as it's not, actually hurting them or hurting anyone else. Because then we get into the conversation of guilt and what do you do with guilt, but I'm getting carried away. So that is my video response to the Witch of Enchantment. I don't know his actual name, but I'll leave the Instagram link to his Instagram in the description, as well as the name of the YouTube channel, The Witch of Enchantment, and the name of the video that I'm responding to, How Christianity Influences My Witchcraft and Embracing What Feels Right. So in some final words, he encouraged people to do your personal practice based on how it makes you feel. Explore, try something new. Ask yourself if something's making you feel a certain way. Why am I feeling this way? And open up to new things. Have a good day. Bye.